Hello, I'm Richard Sher, and it's time to square off. What a show we have for you. We begin, of course, with Also Brooks versus Hogan and much more. Let's meet this week's panel. First of all, we have Hassan, Mr. Politics, Giordano. Nice to see you. We have the debate master. We have Professor Rick Vatz, our newest panelist, Tarsha Fitzgerald, and square off's senior attorney, our senior attorney, Tom Minkin. Well, there was lots of interest across the state and actually across the nation in Maryland's race for retiring U.S. Senator Ben Cardin's seat, the balance of power in the Senate at stake. Two-term Republican Maryland Governor Larry Hogan squaring off against PG County Executive Angela Also Brooks in a televised debate last Thursday evening. Rick Vatz, you're our debate expert. Can you briefly give us your opinion of the debate?
Yeah, I thought it was a good debate. I thought they were civil. I was really surprised at how well the moderators did and the questioners. The outcome is that I think that also Brooks really did not do very well, and I think Hogan did very well.
Tom, what do you think?
Well, I really have never seen Also Brooke for any extended period of time, and I thought she did quite well as also. Hogan, of course, is very familiar, and he was his usual competent self.
Tarsha, come on, guys, let's get into it. Tarsha.
Oh, yeah. I think Also Brooks was her opening and closing remarks was awesome. I think she was very polished. I think she's very confident. I think Hogan was a little nervous. He wasn't as confident as Also Brooks. I think she definitely won the debate.
All right, Rick. Let me go. Hassan, wait, Hassan.
I'm sorry.
Yep, and I think one, Richard, never call it PG County or they will kill you down there. It's gorgeous Prince George's County. But two, I think that County Exec Angela Also Brooks. Most of these things I typically look probably like Dr. Vatz as more of style and things of that sort. What they're saying, what they're not saying, what kind of tie they're wearing, what colors they're wearing. I usually don't learn much on policy, but I did learn something last night. Angela Also Brooks taught me that I'm apparently a part of a sandwich generation, which is those who are caring for children and aging parents at the same time. I never heard of that ever in my life, but that was a good opening for her last night that I saw all across social media last night.
Writing in the Baltimore Sun, Candy Woodall, quote, Democrat Angela Also Brooks says that she will create economic opportunity for every Maryland family. I'll also, she says, fight for our freedoms, like a woman's right to choose, contraception, and IVF. I'll also fight to make sure that we are ending gun violence in America. Larry Hogan, the Republican, saying he decided to run because he had, quote, never been more concerned about the direction of our country. Our country is being torn apart by the extreme voices on both sides. So who won the debate, Rick?
Well, I think Barry Goldwater would have said about this debate that there's not a dime's worth of difference between the candidates, but I think there is. I think also Brooks showed some of her ignorance. She said that the Supreme Court is out of line with the will of the people. But the Supreme Court is not supposed to be a popularity contest. They're supposed to adjudicate the constitutionality of laws. When you say you want to change the Supreme Court because they're out of line with the popularity of the people, you're making a point that is utterly irrelevant. And also, she appears to be not very sympathetic to Israel. She wants a two-state solution already. She wants to tell Israel that they've got to back down. And I just think that she looked like she was there for amateur hour, although she was very fluent. I'll say that.
Yeah, but I would disagree in a sense. I understand where you're coming from, Dr. Vatz, but I think that Angela last night was speaking to what many voters, especially in the Democratic circles and that in the African American circles, have been feeling for years. Yes, the Supreme Court is not supposed to bend to the will of the people, but I think if you ask many people, they have been doing that to the right for many years, which we've seen even Roe v. Wade being overturned. And in terms of Israel, you've seen a lot of Democrats and even Republicans, but more Democrats kind of weighing in on we're not just going to back Israel just to back Israel these days. Like we also understand that Palestine and the people of other countries actually have a right to live and survive as well. And we're not just going to give Israel a blank check to do whatever they want.
Tom Minkin, I can see your brain churning. What do you want to?
First of all, the issue here really is Maryland is an extremely blue state. I mean, maybe the bluest state in the country with the exception of California. So the issue really is if Hogan, a Republican, albeit a responsible Republican, really wants to win this state, the question is really, why didn't he file as an independent? Because Alsobrook battered him unmercifully last night with the fact that he's a Republican.
You think she won the debate?
To the extent that people watching it would say, yeah, you know, if Hogan wins, the Democrats lose the Senate. She certainly did win the debate.
Tarsha, as you know, Tarsha, because of the significance of this race, tens of millions of dollars are being spent on ads. Our local stations are overflowing every second. It's a Hogan spot, an Alsobrook spot. Comment on that, Tarsha, about all the dough being poured in to this Senate race.
A lot of money is being spent in media, and that's so crucial. It's so crucial. It's so important. However, let me tell you, Angela Alsobrooks, she's prepared to win this race. She is, I mean, she's for the people. You saw her confidence last night. You saw her knowledge. You saw her facts. She was presenting facts. Hogan was doing opinions. He was scared. It felt like they was in a ring. She knocked him out. And, you know, yes, they trying to do these media blitz and finding fault for her. And, you know, in October, a couple of weeks before the elections, it is going to be another media blitz trying to find fault. But she gracefully last night answered the questions that was controversial about her with the taxes. She answered very honestly, and she was very humble. But I mean, we need and also Brooks for Maryland. She established 18 schools, set up a cancer center, and even Hogan gave her props last night. He even gave her props.
Everybody's talking about last Thursday night, but that's cool. Rick Vatz, wrap this up.
We must have been at a different debate because I thought she looked absolutely unsure of her facts. Certainly, she didn't understand the role of the Supreme Court, and the argument that she made on Israel was just ridiculous. And I think that you know she couldn't even say whether she was a more Van Hollen Democrat or more Cardin Democrat. She didn't look like she was sure-footed whatsoever. She was fluent in her emptiness, but that's about it.
All right, we're going to move on. Stop. With a majority in the U.S. Senate comes the power to set the nation's agenda, such as protecting or restricting abortion, changing gun laws, or setting tax rates. So we'll see what happens with this. And we're going to move on to the White House. But first, my nominee for president, the voice of Square Off, Howard Mallison. Mr. President.
Thank you. I approve of this message. The law firm of Barry Glazer specializes in personal injury, medical malpractice, and nursing home neglect. His creative TV commercials have made him very recognizable, so much so that you can't walk down the street without people coming up and thanking him for telling it like it is. Barry and his team have an in-house doctor and nurse on staff. In fact, you should call Barry before you call the insurance companies. His clients will tell you that Barry gets you more compensation than you ever expected. He's that good. Give the law firm of Barry Glazer a call at 410-547-8568 and let him know you heard about him on Square Off. And you know, with the baseball playoffs, unfortunately, the Orioles aren't in it, but with playoff baseball, college football, and the Ravens' quest for a Super Bowl, what better way to watch the game than going to Pappas sports bars and restaurants? You can dine in the sports bar surrounded by more big screens than you can imagine, or you can have a gourmet meal in the dining room section of Pappas. Either way, you can enjoy the award-winning Pappas crab cake, imperial crab, and much, much more.
Yummy,
Plus,
yummy,
they ship
Yummy.
crab cakes all over the country. And yes, Oprah gets her crab cake shipped there from there all the time. At
Yep.
Pappas, you'll enjoy a dining experience second to none. Tell them Richard Sher sent you for the
Fab cakes.
That's
Fab
it.
cakes.
Back to you, Richard.
All right, let's go to the White House. Thank you, Howard. Let's go to the White House for the just released New York Times Siena College poll, which shows Kamala Harris pulling ahead slightly of Donald Trump, 49 to 46%. Election day, as we all know, is rapidly approaching. A newly released New York Times poll, as I said, shows her pulling ahead. According to this poll, more voters find Kamala Harris as an agent of change than does Donald Trump. Hassan, where do you stand on this?
Well, look, polls are like buttholes. Everybody has them and they all stink. We're going to see different polls come out between now and election day, Richard. That's going to have Trump getting in the lead a little bit. Then you're going to have Kamala getting in the lead a little bit. At the end of the day, it comes down to the will of the voters and the people. I think you're going to come down to 2 or 3 states that are going to decide the next 4 years of this country. We're not going to list those states and what that means, but because I don't think we have enough time right now, and that's not what we're talking about. But I do want to say that this is going to be a close election. It really comes down to turnout. And I think that if turnout really comes out the way it did for 2008 for Barack Obama, Kamala Harris will be in great shape. I don't foresee that happening at all, but I do think it's going to be a close session that's going to come down to 2 or 3 elections. She'll probably win the popular vote, but I think Donald Trump may pull out the electoral vote.
Go ahead, Ray.
I think weeks ago, I said on this show that this election was going to be like Ronald Reagan in 1980. As you go through October, people are going to think to themselves, do I really want 4 more years of this with no improvement? And I think they're going to go toward Donald Trump. And the evidence is, the latest evidence is that they are moving toward Donald Trump. Now, I have my own misgivings about Trump, but I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. And that's difficult for me because I find him personally so distasteful. But I think he's going to win in the same way that Ronald Reagan won in 1980, when people weren't sure about him, but they knew the last 4 years cannot be the precursor of the next 4 years.
All right, Tom Minkin.
Well, you know, I always think if somebody was in a coma for the last 4 years and they were just revived and shown speeches of the two of them, Harris and Trump, they would have to come away with the thought that Trump comes across like a raving maniac who hurls insults. And ironically, what's really funny about it is he's guilty of everything that he accuses everybody else of doing. No, I think in this situation, Harris is calmer, more self-assured, and if the American public is paying attention, she has to be the winner. As a matter of fact, I think she's going to win a whole lot bigger than the poll showed.
Interesting. Rick, stop shaking your head. Tarsha.
Harris is going to win. She loves our country. She's passionate, fighting for our country. And we need a change. She's definitely an agent for change. Trump is a criminal. He's delusional. He's delusional. I mean, he says, if I win with a fair election. And then he goes, if I lose, Harris fixed it. I mean, who wants a president? All he talks about is negativity. Harris, she got the Divine Nine behind her. She got my AKA sister. She got the HBCUs. She's got the elderly. She got the college students. She got the general public. She's poised. She has experience. She was a prosecutor. I mean, we need someone like that, a change agent that make this world better. I'm a little nervous about the hurricane, the people in Florida, where they're going to vote, how they're going to vote. I'm a little concerned about that. Is that going to be a problem? What's going on with the hurricane? But I'm for Harris all the way.
Stop it. Very
And
good.
Harris says
One
that
second.
we need a change.
Rick, can you hear me? I want to thank you all up till now for making up for what happened last week, where everyone was screaming and yelling at the exact same time. My monitor blew up and Howard almost fired me. So let's keep it the way it is. It's really been great. Now, we know that Kamala Harris is now on a media blitz from 60 Minutes to Stephen Colbert to Howard Stern. She's doing TV, radio, podcasts, personal appearances, and Donald Trump has been holding huge rallies. November 5th is just 3 weeks from this coming Tuesday. Hassan, jump in, and then Rick Vatz.
Well, the first question I would like to have, I wish they'd asked this last night to Governor Hogan, is who's he actually going to vote for president? Because remember, last time he wouldn't vote for Trump, but he wouldn't vote for the Democratic nominee either. So he wrote in his father's name.
Hassan,
Yeah.
he say on the debate that he has already written in the name of Ronald Reagan.
But that's the question, though, Richard. If you're saying, you're telling the Marylanders that you're going to be a bipartisan senator, but you can't even vote for a Democratic nominee because you don't want to vote for the Republican nominee. Instead, you want to write in a whole different name. Then how bipartisan are you going to be when you get in the U.S. Senate? That's the question that always begs to me. But in terms of this, I'm telling you, you could take an emotion out of it. I know this is a very emotional presidential election. If you take emotion out of it, I think if you look at the people who have followed Trump, who have, everywhere he goes, it's Trump this, I think he's going to do well. I think Kamala's going to do well as well. But the question is going to be, again, who turns out the vote the best? And
All right.
at the end of the day, that's going to determine who's the next president.
Rick, we'll get to you in 1 second. Some Trump critics, as you know, if you're watching the news, have accused him for what many are saying are lies that Trump is spreading to instill fear among the voters, like his declaring that money intended for hurricane victims is instead being used by migrants, or that hurricane victims will receive only $750 to rebuild, when the President Biden says that's not true at all. And basically, I think on one of his statements, Biden said, Rick, get a life, man. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, on that, I mean, the argument is that the government has said that they don't have, at one point they said they don't have any, FEMA said they don't have any money for any more hurricanes. Then they said, well, that isn't exactly what we mean. And then they say that the money for migrants isn't interfering with this, but there's a $1 million pot, and the money is fungible in government. And people ought to realize that $1 billion is $1 billion. And I want to say one thing about, I've got to say one thing about this change rhetoric. This is rhetorical rigmarole. When people say, I want Kamala Harris because she represents change, change from what? She's in office. What change is she talking about? And she won't define it. It just sounds good. I want change. People go, oh yes, let's have change.
All right, Tarsha, I can see you're ticked off. So go on.
Can't be ticked off at me, Tarsha.
Good point, though.
First of all, Trump is a dictator. He's delusional. He's a liar, a criminal. Mind you, you want a criminal to represent us? I mean, the bottom line, he has no integrity, no character. He is a criminal. That's what's so important. Why would you want someone to run our country that has criminal activity in his track record? I mean, public service, Kamala Harris has been in public service world all her life. She's our Madam Vice President now. I mean, we need our lives. However, the hurricane is showing you, that's God's work. But the rest of our lives, we need peace. We need happiness. We need joy. We need love. We need good. Nothing that Trump does is good. He's not for our people. I mean, he sent COVID testing over at Russia when we needed it. He didn't give a darn about us.
That's true. And Trump is lashing out these days at Watergate journalist Bob Woodward, in whose new book called War, as Tarsha was alluding to. He writes that Trump has spoken with Russian President Putin at least 7 times since leaving the White House in 2021. Woodward also writes that Trump, while he was in office in 2020, as Tarsha mentioned, he sent COVID-19 test kits to his colleague, that he calls him, to Putin for his personal use. Putin, by the way, according to Woodward, urged Trump not to talk about the COVID tests because, in Putin's words, people will get mad at you. Tom?
Well, first of all, the Kremlin, you should have added, has acknowledged the fact that Trump sent COVID tests to Putin. That, by the way, very well may be a federal offense. That and the conversations, which of course, typically with Trump, nobody knows what was said. As Tarsha was saying, you're talking about a man with 34 criminal convictions, a guy that wouldn't know the truth if it literally bit him in the butt. How the people of this country could even contemplate voting for this individual is absolutely beyond me. That having been said, there are millions of people that are going to, and I just can't see how or why. But the truth is that he's going to get a lot of votes. That having been said, I don't believe that the American people, I refuse to believe that the American people will elect somebody like Trump.
All right, we're going to stop for just a moment. We want to talk a little bit about Milton and Helene, and we'll do that after Howard Mallison tells you about 2 of our great sponsors. Howard?
Thank you, Richard. It amazes me how crazy some people drive on high-speed roads these days. I don't know if you've experienced it, but weaving in and out of lanes, it's no wonder there's so many accidents. But Leading Edge Auto Body and Mechanical Repair want you to know that the insurance companies cannot tell you where to take your car. Check out their reviews on Yelp and their 5-star reviews on Google. Leading Edge works on all makes and models, offers free pickup and delivery anywhere in the Baltimore area. So give them a call at 410-433-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in the heart of Mount Washington. They make your car look and run like new again. And without a doubt, Baltimore is one of the best, if not the best, diner towns in the country. And the most popular and award-winning of them all are the Double T diners. TT means totally terrific. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, the Double T menu offers you so many choices. You're going to want to order everything, and everything is delicious. Plus, you have to save room for dessert. With locations on Route 40 West, Perry Hall, White Marsh, Annapolis, Pasadena, and the EC Diner in Ellicott City. Plus, Monday nights are lobster night at By the Docks in Middle River, all part of the Double T family. Back to you, Rich.
All right, Howard. Now, let's talk a moment about Hurricane Milton. Batters, Florida, leaving at least 14 dead, but as one police chief warns, we will be finding more bodies. First, there was Helene. 2 weeks later, Milton. So much death and destruction. Hassan, why is this happening?
Well, I don't know. You're gonna have to pray on that one and ask God about that. But I think if you see the increase in these weather-related activities, it shows. Look, I'm not one way or the other because I haven't studied it enough to tell you whether global warming is real or not. But I think that I'm just saying I'm not going to speculate until I actually see it for myself. But you can see something's going on, whether you want to call it global warming or not. Something in this world is going on that's tragically affecting millions of American lives. And my heart goes out to those who are being impacted by the storm that's happening currently as we speak. That at the end of the day, it's going to eat, whether it takes their lives or not, it's going to disinfect and tragically affect their lives because many of their homes are gone for good.
Without insurance.
Right.
Rick, where do you stand? What are your thoughts?
Well, let me just say that any sentient human being feels horrible about what's happened in Florida and the other states that have experienced this. With respect to global warming, DeSantis, when asked about that, went through the list of hurricanes and the history of it and showed that there's no correlation between global warming and what's going on. I mean, the University of South Carolina argues that as the climate warms, the hurricane risk changes. But here's what I want to say this about global warming, and I haven't seen this point made anywhere. Joe Biden believes in global warming as something that must be addressed by an administration. He's been in office 3.5 years, and global warming is worse than ever. What has he done to have any effect on global warming? And why should we believe that a president can do anything if Joe Biden hasn't been able to have any effect on it whatsoever?
Joe Biden does not control the entire world. That's part of the problem. Climate change, although our Republican friends cringe at the mention of that term, is an absolute fact. And the reality of it is that we, the people of the earth these days, are living on borrowed time. And it really is not much more complicated than that. There needs to be unanimity in solving this problem. It is not a United States problem. It is an entire world problem being, for the most part, greatly ignored.
But the issue, Tom, is that if we are giving up resources to combat global warming and that has no effect on global warming, what's the point?
All right, let me say this. Thank you all. I do want to mention something. As many of you know, I'm a volunteer in the trauma resuscitation unit at the R. Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center at the University of Maryland Medical System. They have a program there called Stop the Bleed. Minutes count. Now, this is really important because I'm going to tell you how you can learn how to stop someone bleeding. It was someone who is severely bleeding from an injury such as a car crash, unfortunately a gunshot or accidental wound, that you can bleed to death in as little as 5 minutes. That's why the R. Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center for Injury Prevention and Policy, they're offering to you, your group, your church, your synagogue, your mosque, whatever it is, the schools, or a personal treatment. It's called Stop the Bleed. You will get a kit. It's a $50 gift that has everything from tourniquets to gauze. Keep this in your car. Come upon somebody who's seriously injured. You can save their life. The course does not take long. If you would be interested in taking Stop the Bleed course, go onto our website, squareoff.net. When you get to squareoff.net, go down, you'll see the Stop the Bleed. Click anywhere on that, and you'll find out about the courses that are in progress now. You can join one of those, or they'll set one up for you, your group, or your family. Do that as a favor to everyone in this community.
Richard,
Hassan,
you might want to send Anderson Cooper one of those after his recent hurricane coverage.
how about that? Those guys are crazy, by the way.
They really are.
Stuff, you know, whoop, there goes a roof. Oh, whose head was that? Anderson Cooper. Hey, thank you all so much. Tom and Tarsha, Rick, and of course, Hassan. I'm Richard Sher. We'll see you again next week when once again we square off. Be safe. Bye-bye.